talking about that famous acronym again, all right? So we're talking about AI, of course. How is it reshaping community building? And we have a whole wonderful panel here that's going to share all about it. But first, we're going to have a few words from a guy who knows a little bit about this community world that we're all in, maybe had something to do with starting a lot of what we're finding here today. Please welcome the co-founder of Bevy and Startup Grind, Derek Andersen, to the stage.
Well, before we get started with this conversation with three of my favorite people in our industry, I just wanted to share a couple of quick thoughts and mostly just share a lot of gratitude for all of you. That's the biggest feeling that I feel being part of CMX and being in this community. And you know, the first CMX I attended in 2016, I remember walking in and feeling like some of you have described to me over the last day and a half, of just like, oh wow, I didn't realize all of these people were doing such amazing things in these other spaces that's so similar to the work I'm trying to do. And I just remember sitting in these chairs and like scribbling notes like crazy and like asking questions in every session. And then, you know, speaking later in the day, but just feeling like, wow, like these are people I want to spend more time around. These are people that are really inspiring to me. CMX has always been designed to gather the entire industry together. And I want to give a special thanks to all of the partners who helped make this event possible. All the exhibitors outside, you know, that you see, we're so grateful to them, because it's really not possible without everybody coming together to support it. I love working with Beth McIntyre. I think she is an amazing human being. She's so optimistic. I am sometimes accused of having maybe neutral energies, maybe the nice way of saying it. I don't like to get too high, and I don't like to get too low, and so I try to surround myself with people who are really see the good in the world. And Beth is a really hard worker and a great mom, and I love spending time with her, and she's incredibly smart. And so many of the ideas of things that you saw that were new this year, the vast majority of those have come from Beth directly. So really grateful to her and the rest of the CMX team. I've worked with Fahim. Some of you maybe know him. He runs the CMX Connect program. Are there any CMX Connect people in here? We met about 10 years ago. He was a Startup Grind chapter leader in Kabul, Afghanistan. And we, by chance, met and have been in each other's lives for that time. And he's taught me a lot. So thank you to Fahim. He's a wonderful person, too. If you haven't met him. Is he here? Where are you, Fahim? Please meet him. He's an incredible person, and he's been through so many. You know, when you meet people, refugees especially, if you meet people who have been through really hard things, you realize, you know, wow, like I'm just so blessed. And we're in the heart of Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of things that come out of Silicon Valley that change people's lives around the world. Just on this stage, the day before CMX, we host the community that I helped start. The only reason I'm in this is a complete accident. I won't bore you with the details, but I helped start a community called Startup Grind, and it educates entrepreneurs. It's one of the largest communities for startups in the world. And we do our conference right before, and I was interviewing right in these seats one of the most leading, thoughtful people on AI in the world. His name is Naveen Chadha. He's ranked as the #4 best investor in the world. And he sold his first company to Microsoft. He you know, early investor in Lyft and all these famous companies. And the overwhelming feeling as one of these leaders in the space of AI that I heard from him and I hear from others is optimism. I believe in what Sam Altman has talked about, calling AI the age of abundance. It is when my 11-year-old girl can borrow my phone for 5 minutes and use ChatGPT and create the most creative, beautiful images and express her creativity in a way I could never dream in my 42 years on planet Earth. And this idea that, creativity is a human characteristic. But there's been this sort of class of elite builders who have sort of been telling us what products we can use and building the things that millions and vast majority of people use, and it's from a very small amount of people. The same person that built Twitter is the same person that built Square. The same person that invented blogging is the same person that invented Twitter. It's kind of this elite group of people. And what I believe is changing with AI is it's going to enable billions of people to be creators and billions of people to do things that were not possible. And that is so exciting. And it's going to enable us to take the jobs that are our least favorite jobs and the things that are not worth the incredible potential and creativity that each of us has. And it's going to put those in, it's going to make those things so we don't have to worry about them anymore, and we can focus on the things that really matter. And human-to-human connection, that's why I'm here. You know, we had this funny ad at Bevy before COVID, and if you go look at the Wayback Machine, you can find it on our website, and it was like the future is not about AI. The future is about humans. And it's kind of funny now because actually the future's all about AI. So we kind of missed it a little bit. But the future is also, what we do is more important now than ever. It's so important. And, you know, I just want to applaud all of you for coming. Let's get more people to come. I know it's so hard. You know, I was driving, I live really close, and even when I was driving to the theater the other morning, I was thinking, you know, I left the house and one of my children was like, what are you wearing? And I was like, what, jeans? And they're like, yeah, like, where are you going? It's like, is everything okay? It's like, do you have a job interview, or like, what are you doing? It's like, I just want to look nice. What's the problem? And I'm driving to the theater, and I'm like, it's so easy to stay home. And we know this with our community members. It's so easy to just, you know, we've got to get people out. We got to get people talking. We got to get out and help people and let them know that we're in this together. And that's what each of you are doing. And it's super important. It is essential. It is the most essential work, I believe. That's why I'm in the community business. And I think AI is going to make what we do way more important than ever. And so that's why I'm trying to figure it out and why I keep talking about it here. I have 3 of the best people in the community industry. Each of them, you know them, but each of them has a unique connection with CMX with me. I'll just very quickly introduce them. Francisco Cruz Mendoza is a global community lead at Notion. He was on the founding team at Startup Grind and was in the, poor guy, worked in the garage with me for 2 or 3 years. And, but he introduced me to CMX. I'd never heard of it until Francisco said, this community is so cool. You gotta check this out. And that's when I first discovered CMX. Nisha Baxi is the head of AI, scaled support, and community. Really incredible story around what she's doing around community and AI. And 12 years ago, Nisha drained her entire Microsoft budget to fund my first conference and helped us to just get going. So I'm always super indebted to her and have loved watching the amazing things she's accomplished. And then finally, Evan Hamilton, who's the director of community at HubSpot and was previously at Reddit. Really my first memory of Evan is in 2016 at the CMX conference, where all of a sudden I'm sitting in my chair and I see a band walk in, if any of you were there, and there was Evan leading this band, and he's been an amazing community leader, helping build this community and so many of the other most important communities in the technology industry. Let's give a big CMX welcome, if we can, for Nisha, Francisco, and Evan.
Ooh, these chairs are nice and low. Good for a 6-month
We know what we're
pregnant
doing
lady.
with chairs. Thank you all for being here. Let's jump right in. AI is touching every part of our business, but community building is so fundamentally human. How do you think about weaving AI into your work without losing that? Francisco?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of there's always a million things going on in community world all the time. There's a million Slack messages, DMs, things like that. And I think what we're using AI initially for is just documentation. I think documentation is hard to really keep up to date and just create when you have a million things going on. So a lot of the resources that we have for our community, we've been using AI a lot more. Notion everything's integrated, so it just makes it a lot easier to kind of create evergreen resources that always grow. So kind of the first thing we're really testing out.
Yeah, and at Gong, we're using AI in 2 different ways. So we look at it like our internal use case and then also externally. So internally, so I actually sit in customer support now as about a year. And what we're doing is our support agents are actually able to ask an AI agent that pulls from our help center, from our academy, and our community questions that our customers are asking, and then they'll be able to basically quickly triage and give our customers that same answer. And then externally, our customers can also pull that. So we actually use Gainsight Customer Communities, and it has a chat GPT response for the Community Academy and Help Center as well. So people use that all the time.
Evan, when you think about new AI ideas, how do you decide which ones are worth investing in and versus projects that you should just experiment on and keep moving from?
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me bring some much-needed exposure to AI. I think it needs a spokesperson. I'll include it in the take-home that Beth is sending out. But we've started using a really simple chart, and so we look at how much time does the task take? That's the size of the bubble. Then how easy is it to automate? And then how much value is it bringing? And where I like to start is, takes a bunch of time, is pretty easy to automate, and actually isn't very valuable. Because if it's something you have to do, but it's not very valuable, it's not a great use of your time, and it's pretty easy to automate, that is where to start. And I think what I hate about a lot of the thought leadership about AI is people are jumping 5 steps ahead and saying, one day, AI is going to do all of this. And you're like, okay, but it's today. What do I do today? And so find those really easy areas. And I'll call out Gabby Herrera from my team is here. She did an awesome job decreasing time on creating assets, these social media assets for essentially speakers to post and say, hey, I'm speaking at this event. And she had spent so much time building them. She knew that people loved them. And so she used this Canva AI feature to just blast a bunch of them out. Is it sexy? No, it's not like, oh, I use deep learning to automate all of my messages, but it saved hours and hours of this project so she could focus on the good stuff.
Francisco, how about for you? Operationally, what things have you, Notion's sort of leading tool in the AI space, as well as Gong and HubSpot, what are you using that's helping you get through things that you used to have to do by hand?
Yeah, and kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, where it's just a lot of times it's so hard to get away from the things that you have to do daily. Think about creating a doc, right? We've all had to create docs for resources, and it's just that initial jump is so tough. Thankfully, at Notion, everything's so integrated. We have our wikis, we have all of our documentation, our calls. It's easier than ever to just kickstart a doc using AI, and then kind of filling in the gaps and just customizing it to the needs of the community. So when it comes to creating resources for how to run an event, right? How to send out invitations online, or just all these different templates that you should take hours and hours. Myself and G at Startup Grind to kind of hand crank out every time we have a new moment can now just be automated in so many different ways that you kind of just polish near the end, send it out, and we just kind of keep moving a lot faster. And we're just digging into all of the knowledge of all of our community members around the world who are doing this better than anyone else, and kind of creating resources around their experiences.
Well, Evan just used a bunch of examples, and the one that came to mind for me was last night, Jessica Langston at
Autodesk.
Autodesk mentioned that someone had left a nasty message on their support forum, and she like had this immediate response to it that was, in her words, like, I was trying to be nice, but I was still kind of fiery about it. So she put it into ChatGPT, and it was like, hey, can you be a little more empathetic on this? And then she read it, and she's like, oh wow, that's really nice. And it still got to the point, and then she, copy and paste and put that in. And I've had that experience too, where someone writes these really long, responses to me directly, and it's like, this is going to take me an hour to do. And I want to be personal, but like I'm not going to be able to respond. Like it's just they're not going to get an answer. I can't give a 5-minute answer. And so using, like, if I'm not 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, like going back into AI, into ChatGPT or into Gemini or whatever you want to use, and using it to help me, then I feel like I'm not doing my job. It should probably be 10 or 20 times, but at least like every single day using it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like starting small, like incrementally, just use it. You should use it a lot. Encourage your teams to use it. I always tell people, like if you can find a way to 10x yourself, then just do it. I mean, as long as the original ideas and the thoughts are yours and you're able to articulate it in a way that makes sense for the business, just use it. That's the whole point, right? That's what our job as community people is to really be able to scale. Historically, it was scaling through people, but now we have to think about how are we going to scale through systems and tools, and AI is very clearly what's next.
Let me ask you, Nisha, most people will know you here. You've spoken here before. They know your community work. You're known as this incredible community professional, but you're the only one here on the stage with a title that has AI in it. Mm-hmm. How did that happen? What came together for that to be possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I feel like at Gong, I've been at the company for 4 years, so I've been lucky enough to leadership trust me to take on, sort of new initiatives and projects. I have a marketing background. I spent over a decade in marketing, and I'm very passionate about community. And then they said, well, if you want to join community, it actually sits in customer success. So I spent 4 years in post-sale and learned a lot about that, and had the opportunity to run digital customer success. And then when there was an opportunity to sit in support by basically building that pooled model and then putting in support, then they said, hey, like you've done a lot with scale, right? So you've done community, like scaling people. You've done a lot with, we built this pooled model for now like thousands of accounts. Now only have, a few CSMs that report to you. So can you do something similar for support? So that's how it came to be. And the idea is that we want to scale support by any means possible. So 2 years ago, everyone was talking about automation, and AI is basically just automation plus plus right now. And so that's kind of how I got into it. So I really, when I think about my role and I think about how community will continue to evolve, I really encourage you all to sort of think about yourselves as scale agents for the company, right? That's the reason why community exists at your company, is because they needed a way to scale knowledge. And so when you look at it from that perspective, I think that there's a lot of opportunities.
Evan, could you talk to us a little bit about how you're using AI to gather research or manage customer feedback better? HubSpot's this massive mega company, like it must be just coming in, pouring in all day, every day. What are you doing to streamline that?
Yeah, I mean, for research, I'm trying to use this as kind of my second brain. I think it's dangerous to use AI as your first brain, which I see a little bit too much, but using Notebook LM as a place to kind of put these explorations, these data points, I think in the past, you see a cool data point, you try and remember it, you bookmark it, you never see it again. And so a lot of this is, ooh, this is interesting, it has to do with this theme, I'm gonna put it in this notebook so I have it later, and I can just query that notebook and say, remind me what the stat was about how many admins visit this certain event, and it'll just pull it up for me.
What have you found makes AI feel more accessible, or maybe even for your team? Are the things you encourage or you're seeing them do?
Yeah, I think often, especially when managers ask people to use AI, it feels a little bit like your manager's like, so dig a hole that's like roughly as long as you are and then like 6 feet down. Perfect, and then put your job in there. And that's not what I want to do. I don't want to eliminate anyone's jobs, but I understand that fear, absolutely. And so I think the first part of it is just making sure you're thinking about, well, what comes after the AI, right? I actually want to encourage the team to say, if I automate this task, I'm going to do this instead, right? There's a more valuable thing you can do, I guarantee it, and it just gives you that security of like, okay, I know where my time's going to go. I'm not going to get fired. I'm going to go do this thing. I think examples are really helpful because, again, I listen to so many podcasts where people bloviate about what AI theoretically could be, and I'm like, but what are you doing today? And so as much as you can show, not tell, I've tried to show the team, here's what I'm using, here's where I'm failing to use AI. I think that helps a lot as well.
Francisco, when you share AI experiments or insights, like, what actually is sticking and driving real action inside of Notion?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of different things, at least internally within our community team. Again, it's kind of just building a lot more support for our community. Like, how can we extend ourselves and what we're doing, and also just reduce some of those questions that we get. Again, going back to that kind of original, a million things going on at once, how we can reduce that to 900,000, right? Or just like make sure that folks know where to get help, where to get the support that they need without going out directly to us, or worse, which I know anyone who is on a team here, where you all get the same message, like the entire team at once, and they wait to see what answers first. So, avoiding more of those moments, I think that's a very big thing. Our community itself, though, is finding to use it in so many vastly different ways. I think one of the things that's been really interesting is they're transcribing a lot of calls, obviously letting folks know, transcribing the calls, and getting all of this data from all of these calls into their Notion workspaces. And again, it's just like you have all of the wealth of knowledge for your entire company in one place. So if you ever need anything answered or anything created, it's so much faster, so much more efficient. So on the community side, we're doing some version of that, and on our actual member side, we're just seeing them kind of take it to the next level constantly.
Do you use Gong to transcribe those calls, or do you have some beef with
Yeah, not yet. We'll talk about that later, though, for sure.
Yeah, now we have beef.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think there's just so many AI tools out there and that are purpose-built for very specific use cases. So I just encourage everyone to really experiment and to see, and you have the opportunity to be like an innovator and a thought leader in something that nobody really knows everything about. I mean, I have AI in my title, and I know 0.001% about AI, right? None of us really know. So really just do as much as you can and experiment. I think experimentation is super key right now.
And I'll pitch in here as well. I think part of that is also being someone who thinks about systems and processes, which isn't always the sweet spot for community. We're about the people, but if you can lay everything out in front of you and say, well, where am I being inefficient, or where am I doing things that I hate, that I don't want to do anymore, or that don't require my brain, that's going to help you find those opportunities.
The last thing I'll say there, yes, huge is metrics. Data, when someone on the leadership team is like, hey, I want to know how many events you had, or like, what are the points here? Holy cow, AI has made it so much more easy for us to actually pull those things together. It's not something that we're like dreading at the end of the month. It's like, great, we're going to put this into a queue. We know exactly what we need. We can pull these immediately and get the most up-to-date metrics, and check the history of it over the long term, which I think is one of the things we're really taking advantage of.
With 2025, Francisco, with all this AI stuff, what human-centric stuff are you doubling down on this year?
Non-scalable things, unfortunately. I want to have calls with my members. I want to get to know who they are. I want to establish relationships with them. I worked at Startup Grind early on, and one of our big values was make friends, not contacts. And I think that I want to keep that going for as long as humanly possible. There is a very prominent social media founder recently that said something like, people have about 6 friends, but they have demand for 15. I don't know what that means, and I'm really terrified of where we're going with that. And another question was just like, do I think AI agents or friends can replace IRL? I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. No, I do know. It will not. So I think continuously investing in their relationships, making sure they know there's someone on the other side that cares about, and wants to support them, and that they can lean on, I think is something that I'll continue to invest into.
I think we're at a point right now where it's going to be a hybrid model. Like, actually, community is even more important right now because everybody is so focused on scale, and we should be thinking about scale and how to scale our community and our work and what we're trying to achieve and how people actually use your product. But I think it's also so important that we're the only team in the whole company where we're really interacting, on a daily basis with, hundreds, if not thousands, of human beings. So soft skills are even more important now, being able to connect with other human beings. And so I think that's really important, is lean into that. You should also lean into that messaging, but know that you understand how to scale as well. It is so important.
Evan, do you see ways that AI can actually deepen human connections?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Nisha, you were talking about like missing that big old Microsoft budget. Like,
sorry about
AI,
that.
AI is our budget. Like, AI can solve so many of our logistical needs so that we can connect people. So it can save us time, but it can also do those connections. We rely, Beth was talking on day one about serendipity, and like the best part of conferences is when you meet someone randomly and they have such an amazing insight, or you catch up with someone. We shouldn't be leaving that to serendipity. And so CMX Summit did that with intros.ai. There are so many ways we can use AI to make sure the right people get together. And that's where, to what you two were both just saying, we have a really unique benefit to add. Because AI delivers knowledge. In my opinion, it doesn't deliver insight. Because it is actually trained to the mean, right? It's trying to bring you the most average thing. It's not trained to say, well, maybe I'm going to make this stretch of a connection. And that's where humans come in. And what we hear from our customers over and over is like, your documentation is great. The support bot answers my questions. I want to know how other people are doing this. I want to talk to other humans and say, what are your challenges? What are the tips and tricks you found? What impressed your boss? AI is never going to be able to do that. And so if we can use AI to get the dumb, how do I reset my password questions out of the way, and then say, hey, you over there, you should talk to this person. You have really similar needs. That's, I think, where the magic happens.
I think, a new thing comes out every week that I didn't understand the week before. And I think, for us, because of the way that, the 20 years in technology, and it's just waves. Sometimes you're up, and sometimes you're not. And then it kind of just comes back, these waves. Like, we're seeing that now. I mean, all this, Erica Cool, I'm so excited for her. She's just, we all know her and love her, and like, that's positive, and like, oh, okay, like momentum shift. I think I've talked to some of my engineers in my company, and when you see the ex-CEO of Google saying software engineering will be obsolete in the next year, or you see the guy that runs, Gary Tan, who runs Y Combinator, the like Harvard for startups, say 95% of their startups are now generating, all their code is AI. I think, the people are trying to figure out where they fit. And this is where I'm going to go to you, Nisha, is that I didn't realize all the things that you were doing in AI until recently. We just caught up because we're friends, and you were telling me about it, and it sort of reminded me of a couple things with you. One is that during the pandemic, I remember talking to you and saying like, hey, why don't you have this Gongs, this amazing product, used it for a long time, why don't you have this huge community team? And your comment to me, as I recall, was something along the lines of, well, I want to keep it tight, and I'm going to keep what I need, and I'm not going to get too far over my skis, and like, I'm going to just keep doing what I need to do. And they would give me more if I wanted, but I'm not going to take it. I'm just going to keep it right here. And that served you really well, where a lot of us didn't follow that advice. And now, the other thing with you is that that I've seen with you over the years is you really, you're open to things that aren't inside, things that you don't know, things that maybe seem scary. You're open to trying new things and open. I just interviewed this very famous leadership author named Liz Wiseman, and she said that the best people are people that are open to saying yes to new things and trying new things. And I see you as like the perfect example of this. I wonder if you could just share with the team, with the community here, of just how that even started and what your mentality is around that, because I need to get some of that for myself.
I don't know, just as you were saying that, I started thinking about my dad, and he always said to me, I don't know where he got this from, it's probably some leadership book, but he'd always say, Beta, you have to lead, follow, or get out of the way. So like that, and that's how he talks all the time. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm not getting out of the way because that means I'm out of a job. same with following, right? It's not, you don't want to be the last person to figure things out. So you really have to lead, and what does that mean? And so, as you're hired by a company, right? But your customers are ultimately the ones who you report to. So you think about, you have to skate to where the puck is going. So I don't even watch. Wayne Gretzky's amazing, but I'm not a big hockey player. But I think that's what you have to really think about that. And so, what is the company trying to achieve? They're trying to get as much done as they can with as little resources as possible, which is why I always thought it was so important to run as lean as possible, as long as possible, and as flat for as long as possible as well. So, I think about that a lot. Is like, am I in anything that I'm doing? Am I leading? Am I following? Or am I just doing so bad I need to get out of the way? So really think about that. One other thing I just did want to mention, going back to less about the methodology, but I think this is a really good opportunity for all of us to take a look at our current tech stack. Does it work for us still? Like, is it doing what we want it to do? Is what we're trying to achieve, like, on their roadmap? We're doing a full tech stack reevaluation. I think I've interviewed like 13 different vendors over the past 4 months because I really want to nail it for support, for community, and for our scale play. So just putting that out there.
Evan, Francisco, Nisha,
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.